Hi everyone, how are you all? Are you nervous or excited about the coronation? Please let me know in the comment section below. Okay, today I want to have a quick chat about Harry's visa woes. I heard speculation that he may use it as an excuse not to travel to the coronation, but I don't think so. I think will be at the coronation looking like he's at somebody's funeral, or his Monteshit show home has just burned down, which, metaphorically speaking, I think may be close to the truth. I think the atmosphere in that home will make hell look like paradise at the moment. Anyway, I listened to BlackBeltBarrister, who graciously used his profession, time and money to register to get the Heritage Foundation's court application to compel the state to provide Harry's visa application. What we did not know until now is that the reason why the Heritage Foundation now has to appeal to the court is because their previous requests have been met with a classical "we can't find the documents" scenario. I'm a little disappointed that BlackBeltBarrister did not go through the submission giving a little more of the detail of the document, but he shared what he thought as a barrister was important. But as someone who has been following Meghan and Harry now for 5 years, read Harry's book and watched the Oprah interview, watched the Netflix series, etc., there are one or two other things I personally would like to see in that document. And maybe it is indeed there, I don't know. I think that the Heritage Foundation has a good, solid case, and I think the court will compel the state to hand over the paperwork. But before I get to what I think will happen after that, let me share with you what my questions are. There aren't many, but I think they are very pertinent and important ones. Firstly, who helped Harry with his visa? Was it Ashley Hale, Samantha's daughter and Meghan's niece? Did Ashley, who is indeed an immigration lawyer, tell Harry what to tick and what not to, what to say and what not to say? As immigration lawyer, she would have known that his previous drug use may have prevented him from getting a visa, regardless of what type of visa he currently holds. The thing is also that she ought to know what the repercussions would be if Harry was caught lying. So did she forget to advise him of that, or did she truly not know about his drug and alcohol abuse, and did they not consult her as lawyer before the book was published? Are they scrambling now to hide the evidence? Because not only may it result in Harry being deported out of the United States, but it could also result in Ashley losing her job. That is, if she was involved and if she advised him to lie and or helped cover it all up when it came out, or when the Heritage Foundation made their first request. Is Ashley Hale going to be the next person to fall due to the Markle curse? Okay, so that was my first question, namely, was Ashley Hale involved in Harry's immigration or visa process? Now, for my next question, and this may sound like a stretch, but believe me, it happens. Harry and Meghan were in Canada when they decided to flee to the United States. It is not clear why they made that decision, except that it was likely Meghan's plan from day one. And when the lockdown hit, she did not know how long it would last, so she manipulated Harry, and in inverted commas or brackets, Tyler Perry, in leaving immediately. So when I traveled to Canada in 2021, I was not told that I needed a separate visa just to travel to Canada via the United States. I had never been to the United States, and in all my other travels, it was never the case. If it was just a transfer, and you were not going to leave the airport. So when I wanted to book a flight which was slightly cheaper, namely one via Detroit, I couldn't because I did not have the right visa. So my question is, did Harry and Meghan plan well in advance to go to the United States and thus applied for a visa for Harry? And thus their story of crying to Tyler Perry and fleeing before the borders were closed was indeed a lie, and Tyler Perry was taken for a fool. Or did Harry enter the United States illegally on Tyler Perry's private jet? I think that is a question that needs answering as well. The third and my last question is there any mention in the Heritage Foundation's document about Harry's current drug use? There should be, because as I've shown you before, he does mention it in his book, where he acknowledges smoking cannabis at Tyler Perry's home. In his Colbert interview, he actually admitted to still using hallucinogenics such as mushrooms and some other plant which I can't remember the name of right now. He actually says in so many words that it forms a large part of his life. Now, I know that in California the use of certain drugs is not illegal for as long as it is for your own use and you are not producing in large quantities or selling. But as non-citizen, Harry is subjected to federal law, and drug use of any kind is illegal under federal law. So Harry has in fact openly admitted to breaking federal law. Usually, drug possession and use under federal law can result in a rather stiff prison sentence, and if you're a foreigner, a couple of other things. And I think it is going to tick a good number of people off if he is treated any differently from anyone else. As a matter of fact, I think it is already making a certain group of people very angry, and I've heard some questions being raised, namely, what would have happened if Harry was black or Mexican? What would have happened if he was not the son of the British king? The penalties for a foreign national breaking the drug laws are fairly hectic. If a foreigner is charged with an aggravated felony, in other words, one where a weapon was used in a drug crime, it will prohibit such a person from asylum relief, mandatory deportation, and the ability to reapply for entry into the United States ever again. If a foreigner is convicted of 2 or more drug-related crimes, for instance, obtaining, carrying, use being one, and taking drugs over state lines being another, you will be deported, and depending on the nature and circumstances, such a person will face mandatory deportation and will not be able to reapply for re-entry into the United States for a period of months, years, or ever again. If a foreigner is charged with a drug crime involving moral turpitude, for instance, simple assault or worse, while under the influence of a drug, deportation will also be mandatory and reapplication will be at the discretion of the judge. And I just want to mention something. Domestic violence while under the influence would count as one of those as well. If we are talking possession and personal use only, it may not necessarily mean deportation. In Louisiana, for instance, they provide pre-trial diversion programs, and if a person completes the program, the prosecutor may drop the charges. But if you are found guilty of a drug charge in a plea deal or not, you may still be deported, regardless of completing the drug program. It very much depends on the judge. and the circumstances, how the person was apprehended, where he was apprehended, with what he was caught, and how much, and whether he had paraphernalia on him, etc., etc. A larger issue for Harry would, however, be whether he lied to an immigration officer or on his application or not. And let me read to you from the applicable act. Any applicant found to have used fraud or willful misrepresentation will be permanently inadmissible from the United States if the fraud or misrepresentation is found out after a person has obtained a green card or visa. Then the person is deportable from the United States for having been inadmissible at the time of admission. Now, of course, people make mistakes. They misunderstand a question. They get dates wrong, etc. And a waiver for a simple mistake is relatively easy to obtain. But you lie about something which is a crime in your country of origin, whether you were convicted or not, and you are in big, big trouble. And that, I personally think, is where Harry's biggest issue will arise. So what do I think is going to happen to Harry? Now, we all know, by now I'm a bit cynical. I think it depends on who he is going to approach for help, or who is going to step in to help him, if anybody. I think at most Harry will have to admit to lying on his application, or knowing him, he will call it making a mistake, and at most he will be told to leave the country for 90 days and attend a diversion or rehabilitation program. And I'm saying at most. I personally believe that he is likely going to get preferential treatment and will get a slap on the wrist, if that much. I also think that he will be told to never, ever, 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 ever again tell the truth in public. And as far as the public is concerned, we will likely be shown a TMZ-style document again. Remember the TMZ birth certificate, which did not even have Lily's father's name on it? And that, my dear friends, is exactly why we thinking people are getting tired and fed up with the uber rich and elite. This one rule for them and another for us. Okay guys, I have a lot to talk to you about. I watched Princess Anne's interview and it confirmed what I had been told months ago. But I am hesitant to talk about it now, 2 days before the coronation. So, although I know I can scoop or whoop on certain things, I am not going to, because I'm a decent, respectable sort whose own interests weigh a little less than that of all of you collectively, at least in my own eyes. Okay, so if you know of someone who can answer the questions I have in this video, please let me know. Alternatively, please forward the link to my video to the Heritage Foundation. I am really very, very curious to have those questions answered. Okay, guys and girls, so that's it from me for today. Please take good care of yourselves until we meet again on the next one. Bye.